Okay, good morning everyone, and before we start I would like to say that my pronunciation isn't perfect, so if it would be anything hard to understand, please stop me and I will try to make it clear. So, I would like to start with the definition of extradition. So, extradition is the transfer of an accused from one state or country to another state or country that seek to place the accused on trial or to execute a sentence. So, this is a fundamental instrument of international cooperation in case of chasing and punishing criminals. And some of the components appeared much earlier, but the main rules have been constituted within the 20th century. And one of the most important documents for extradition in case of Europe is the European Convention of Extradition from the 13th of December 1957. And going back to these rules, firstly, an extradition must be done only if there is an applicable treaty between two countries. And I guess at this point it's vital to remember that in case of extradition we have sovereign entities, so no country is forced to join a proper act. And of course, in general, lots of countries can transfer a person even if they don't have proper acts because of their internal regulations. But in some cases, in some countries, they cannot transfer a criminal if they don't have a proper act. And what's more, secondly, an act in connection with which extradition is going to be done should be punished in both countries, and that's a principle of double punishment. Additionally, an extradition request should be rejected if there has been already a final judgment regarding to a crime which is mentioned in that request, and that is called the nebis in idem rule. And what's more, a person for whose extradition a country calls can be chased and punished only for acts, for crimes, which are included in extradition request. And that's the principle of specialty. And what I would like you to remember is that in case of extradition, political reasons are very important. So, because all these actions, all these proceedings are in gesture of politicians. So, usually it's transfer an accused person is dependent on political reasons, and that's why it's quite ineffective sometimes. In case of humanitarian reasons, it's forbidden to transfer an accused person to a country which he or she might be executed for crime. And we have to remember that extradition, these whole proceedings cost a lot of money, because we have to negotiate, we have to make proper acts, and we have to transfer the person, so the expenses of that are so basically it costs really lots of money. And unfortunately, in recent years, the extradition was insufficient. So because of that, political reasons, economic reasons, and lots of countries didn't sign a proper act. So that really made some troubles. And about the European arrest warrant, it is a judicial decision issued by a member state with a view to the arrest and surrender by another member state of a requested person for the purposes of conducting a criminal prosecution or executing a custodial sentence or detention order. And the European arrest warrant was introduced by the framework decision of the European Union Council on 13th of June 2002. But we have to remember that the European arrest warrant was preceded by some other conventions which strengthen cooperation between the European Union members. And to name only a few, we should mention the Convention on Simplified Extradition Procedure from 1995, the Convention on Extradition from 1996, and the Treaty of Amsterdam from 1997. And moreover, we shouldn't forget about the Agreement of Schengen, because it also assumes some kind of cooperation in criminal cases between European Union members. And the main purpose of entering European arrest warrant was to facilitate proceedings of surrender and punishing people accused of committing crimes within the UA. And to achieve it, the originator made some strict deadlines in order to make it faster. Additionally, which I think is very important, in European arrest warrant proceedings, the European Union Council abolished some rules typical for extradition. And for example, in European arrest warrant, a principle of double punishment is not applicable, and the principle of specialty is strongly limited. And generally, a country cannot refuse to surrender the accused because of alleging that he is a political criminal. I mean, in case of extradition, country can reject the request by alleging that this person is a political criminal, which is very problematic because we don't have strict definition of that. But in case of European arrest warrant, we cannot refuse it by alleging that it's a political criminal. The main difference, the easiest difference to notice is that the European arrest warrant is a gesture of justice. So politicians don't make any crucial decisions in the whole proceeding. And that's why the European arrest warrant is much cheaper than extradition, because we don't have all these proceedings, all these negotiations, all these political reasons. And finally, in case of European arrest warrant, each state is obliged to surrender its own citizen. I mean, for example, in case of extradition, in lots of countries it is forbidden to transfer a person, and when the framework decision of European arrest warrant came, it makes some difficulties. So the thing was, in case of European arrest warrant, is it what really is it, the European arrest warrant? Is it a type of extradition, or it's something new. And if we call it a type of extradition, it would be contrary to the law to implement it. And assuming that it's something else would help us to avoid that problem. And in case of Poland, despite using different terms, the Polish Constitutional Court ruled that it is a type of extradition, which forced Polish government to make necessary changes in the constitution. And similar situation took place, for example, in Cyprus. Moreover, there were some difficulties with this act in Germany, in Belgium, and in Czech Republic, for example. And of course, there are some obstacles under which European arrest warrant shouldn't be done. Generally, an European arrest warrant is not applicable in terms of amnesty, and when an accused person is too young to be judged in the country which is called on for European arrest warrant. Moreover, nebis in idem rule is still applicable. I mean, so if there was a final judgment, we cannot surrender an accused person to the other state. And when we think about it, I guess it's quite obvious when we think about that these means are based on mutual trust between the members of the UA. So, in case of similarities and differences between an European arrest warrant and an extradition, we came to an end. And I would like you to remember that it's a very simplified introduction. Practically, this theoretical assumption can be far away from reality. And going back to the subject, it is quite difficult to answer the main question, because on the one hand, we can see some substantial differences among an European arrest warrant and an extradition. Also, we can assume that the originators of European arrest warrants use different terms to emphasize it. I mean, in European arrest warrant we have the term surrender, and in case of extradition there is a transfer or deliver an accused person. But on the other hand, European arrest warrant and extradition have similar, if not the same purpose. I mean, they are used to overcome the trouble of criminality, of international criminality. So, personally, I think that these considerations are mainly significant theoretically. I mean, practically, there is a slight difference between them, and it's not so important. The most important thing is to make these proceedings effective. And if I would have to classify the European arrest warrant, I would say, similar to Polish Constitutional Court, that it's a new type of extradition. So, approaching to an end, I would like to present to you short cases connected with this subject. Everybody knows who is this guy? Okay, it's Pablo Escobar, and he was a Colombian drug baron, and he was accused of several serious crimes by the US government. But unfortunately, there were no proper acts under of which he could be transferred to the USA and to be punished. And in case of it, there were some political pressures by the USA on Colombian government. but he was a filthy rich person, and I mean, yes, I mean, he earned lots of money. So all this situation led to a huge political crisis in Colombia, and many people died because of fighting between Pablo Escobar and Colombian government. And finally he died as a result of shootings when US and Colombian forces tried to capture him. The second case is connected to Josip Perkovic. He was an Yugoslavian agent of the secret police, and he was accused by the German government of a murder. And for a few years, the German government was unable to catch him because there were no proper acts in Croatia when he was. And after the Croatia adjusted the law to the European Union conditions, he was captured in the 1st of January 2014, and he was sent after 23 days, so it was quite effective. So at the very end, I would like to say that nowadays European arrest warrant almost completely replace extradition proceedings in case of between the European Union members. And it's much cheaper and faster. Moreover, it shows progressive integration within the European Union. But during my study on this subject, I saw some danger. I mean, when we abolish lots of typical rules in case of chasing, judging, punishing people, we may overlook their rights. I mean, of course, we can show some examples that can be used to convince us that these proceedings are vitally important or needed, and these changes are necessary. But an European arrest warrant is applicable for people accused for crimes which are punishable from 1 year, or those who are sentenced for prison for 4 months. And unfortunately, a significant majority of European arrest warrant requests were used to capture people who were accused of less serious crimes. We can call them misdemeanors in the US. So, I mean, it costs a significant amount of money because it's not for free. And lots of them are usually sent back without any punishment, and that's quite ineffective for me. And I know that these proceedings shows progress in the European Union integration and can be effective, but it still contains some difficulties connected with human rights, especially when we think about people who are sent to a foreign country with no help of their homeland, and sometimes they are accused for crimes which aren't punishable in their country. So personally, I believe that these problems can be solved, maybe by harmonizing penal provisions within the UA. But while it isn't done, an European arrest warrant should be used carefully, conscientiously, considering human rights and economical reasons in each case. Thank you for your attention.